Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the sponsor, Surfshark. Nowadays, so much of our lives are spent on the internet, whether it's our social media, banking, health, travel, work, or really anything else that you could think of. It all happens online through our computer or our mobile phone. With that much personal information out there, you have to make sure that you stay protected from potential online threats that could get a hold of your data and put you in a compromised position. With Surfshark VPN, they stop exactly that. Surfshark securely encrypts your information to help ensure that your online identity stays protected. Personally, I've been using Surfshark VPN for a while now, and I've found it to be an absolute game changer. It's an essential in making sure that all my work stays safe and secure. If you're interested in checking it out, head to surfshark.deal/MrCreeps for 83% off plus 3 months for free on a 2-year plan. That's a little more than $3 per month, not bad. Again, visit surfshark.deal/MrCreeps for 83% off plus 3 months for free on a 2-year plan. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Hi everyone, I'm not the best at telling stories, but this is one that I need to get off my chest. If you get nauseous when I get down into the details, turn away now. I will not be sparing any. My name is James and I'm a truck driver originally from Virginia. I travel the states delivering loads of supplies to companies that have hired me. You may have seen me in some of the truck stops in your local state. Now, I've encountered numerous strange things during my year in the industry, ranging from torn up trailers all the way to careless accidents on the highway. However, what I'm about to tell you takes the cake by far. I was tasked to deliver a load coming out of Arkansas to Southern California, which meant that I had to travel west on I-10. I had high hopes of finding an alternate route to the destination, but there was no luck. It was going to take me straight through Arizona to California, on the one highway I wanted so badly to avoid. Why, you ask? Well, growing up, I was told many stories of Navajo legends, such as the Skinwalkers that lived around that area. It frightened me often as a child, and honestly, it still does to this day, even as an adult. I'm 25 now for reference, and these stories only terrify me more. Countless other drivers have warned me to avoid parking overnight in southern Arizona due to the sheer number of driver disappearances. It was quite high, to say the least. And on top of that, many other people besides just drivers come up missing as well without a trace. So, you can bet that I was terrified to drive this way. I picked up my load in Arkansas and started my 1,700-mile journey to the destination. The first night went just fine. I made it roughly halfway into Texas before having to stop for the night, since I could only drive for 11 hours a day and I had about an hour left. The next morning, I picked up where I left off on my journey, driving right into New Mexico. At this time, I had gotten a phone call from one of my buddies. For this story, we'll call him Joe. Joe calls in at roughly 1500 Mountain Time, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through New Mexico. We chat about a bunch of things like science and technology, Elon Musk, and some other things that I can't really remember the details of at this time. It had been roughly 2 hours since he had called, and he was saying goodbye when I realized that I wasn't in New Mexico anymore. I hadn't really been paying attention to the area that I was in, being distracted by the conversation and the phone call. I was now in Arizona, with very few hours left to drive. I began to panic and decided that I was going to stop for a while, since I still had an hour and a half left of driving time. I continued on my path, starting to become slightly drowsy, even to the point where I really shouldn't be driving anymore. And so I pulled into a Love's truck stop for the night, hoping to get some decent shut-eye. The truck stop was in the desert areas of Arizona, and not very many other places nearby. I parked, went off duty, and climbed into my bed to go to sleep. About 15 minutes after getting into bed, my truck shuts off. Now, this is odd, since I had left the key engaged and my doors were all locked. I walk into the cab of my truck to find the keys still engaged, the tank half full, but my truck completely off. When I went to start it, I couldn't even get a sound from the engine. It was as if somebody had tampered with it while I was in bed. I get out of my truck, open the hood and look for anything that could possibly be missing. The truck stop was well illuminated, so I didn't really need my flashlight. As I pulled open the engine bay, I immediately noticed something was wrong. The entire head was pulled off of my motor, and upon closer inspection, my spark plugs were removed as well. At this point, I was a little bit mad, because it was obvious that someone had tampered with my truck. I began to walk over to the repair shop on site, when all of the lights went out of the truck stop. And I don't just mean the parking lot lights, the lights for the signs inside of the store. Heck, even the parking lights for other trucks went out. I was in complete darkness and alone outside. I quickly booked it back to my truck and locked the doors up when I got inside. And then I closed the curtains to my sleeping area so no one could see in. The lights going out weren't the worst thing ever. I could have tolerated it had it not been for all the other trucks' lights also going out, as well as the area that I was in. I laid there in bed for what seemed like hours, occasionally glancing out of my window to see if any of the lights were now back on. They weren't, just so you know. I glanced at my watch. 20 hours. I'd only been there for about an hour. I began to hear a soft tapping at my window. It was rhythmic, like someone was tapping on a tune on the glass with their fingernail. I didn't dare look. It kept going for about 30 seconds and then it stopped. I sighed a soft breath of relief, thinking that whoever it was had left me alone, or hopefully they didn't think anyone was in the truck. For some reason, and don't ask me why, I got up and I pulled back my curtain to hopefully catch a glimpse of whoever it was. When I didn't see anyone, I closed the curtain and I laid back down. And that's when the tapping started again, only louder and faster this time. Whoever was out there before must have seen me, and they weren't going to leave this time. Nervously, I peered through my curtain while the tapping was going on to see who it could be. What I saw will haunt my dreams for the rest of my life. It was a woman, tall with dark hair. I couldn't make out any facial features due to how dark it really was, but it appeared that her eyes were sunken in. It looked as if she hadn't gotten any sleep in years, like she was just a hollow shell of a person that she used to be. She noticed me looking and smiled at me. "Let me in, dearie. I need some help," she said in a very low and shallow voice. It reminded me of a longtime smoker who had trouble with projecting their voice. I shook my head slowly and nervously. "I don't know of any way that I could help you. I'm sorry," I said, trying not to sound shaken up but not really doing well at it. Her smile only grew wider at this, sending a shiver down my spine. Her entire face seemed to contort as her smile continued to get wider and wider. I closed the curtain and laid back down in bed, shaking with fear. Now, I'm not a small guy. I'm about 6'4" on a good day, with an average build. So, a lady like her shouldn't have scared me this badly. Yet still, I lay in bed, petrified. It was then that I heard her voice outside once again. That low, gravelly voice. "Well then, I'll just ask the guy next to you," she said. I heard a giggle, and then gravel crunching as she walked away. Stupidly enough and not learning, I looked back through the curtain. She walked over to the next driver's truck and tapped on his window. I watched as he came to the front and rolled down his window to see what she needed. She must have asked him the same question, because no sooner than he rolled down the window was he getting out of his truck to follow her somewhere. I wanted to roll down my window and yell at him and tell him not to do it, that you have to believe me. But in this moment, I was too terrified to even move. I couldn't speak. My heart was beating so quickly that I could hardly even catch my own breath. She walked him around the front of his truck and down the passenger side, right next to my truck, stopping just right below my window. He stopped behind her, looking a bit puzzled as to what she really needed. She had to have known that I was there looking, because she looked right at me with that same smile. The smile that made her entire face twist as it went ear to ear. I watched as her smile then faded into something sinister, something dark and ominous. Her skin, it began peeling off her face with every passing second, her gaze never leaving mine. I still couldn't move. All I could do was look back and forth between her and the man. In a second, she had turned around and stabbed the man through the chest. Not with a knife or any other sharp object, with only her hand. It was still dark outside with no lights, but I could see the pain and surprise on the man's face as his heart was ripped from his chest. She pulled at it again. Her skin just fell completely off of her face. It was like watching someone peel a banana. The top just fell and the rest followed suit. With heart in hand, she reached down and grabbed the man's leg and started to drag him off behind the truck stop. But before she left, she looked back up at me and said in that same familiar voice, "I'll be back for you soon, dearie." I couldn't sleep at all last night, and I don't think that I'll be able to sleep very well in the coming nights either. That, however, doesn't worry me. I'm more worried about my truck getting repaired so I can leave this crazy place. It isn't scheduled to be repaired until tomorrow, since it's only a small mechanic shop and they have a bit of a line in front of me. She could come back for me at any time, and I don't know when it'll be. If you're reading this, please stay away from the deserts of Arizona. Who knows? You could be next.